while my husband Mark was complaining about our mortgage payment. Another commission request, this time from Mama Fluffy the Corgi, a pet influencer with 2.3 million followers. The amount they offered made my hands shake, enough to cover 6 months of the very mortgage Mark was grumbling about. "Something wrong with your phone, dear?" Mark glanced up from his coffee, that familiar controlling edge in his voice. "Just a spam email," I said, sliding my phone face down on the kitchen counter. "More coffee?" "I'm Cassandra, and I've mastered the art of invisible success. 3 years ago, I was a creative director at one of the city's top design firms. Now, according to my mother-in-law Solstice, I'm finally living like a proper wife should. If only they knew. Did you see the electric bill?" Mark pushed his empty mug toward me. "It's getting ridiculous. Maybe you should spend less time on that iPad of yours." I poured his coffee, remembering the day he and Solstice tag-teamed me into quitting my job. "A woman's ambition can poison a marriage," Solstice had declared over dinner. "Mark needs a wife, not a competitor." "I'll try to be more careful," I said, already calculating the commission in my head. 6 months of mortgage payments, all from one little hobby. The doorbell rang. Mark answered it while I quickly packaged another finished commission, a digital portrait of a German shepherd in a superhero cape. "Just some craft supplies I'm sending to my sister," I called out when I heard his footsteps returning. "Cassandra," Solstice's voice carried through the house like a foghorn. "I brought breakfast. Perfect timing, as always." She swept into the kitchen carrying artisanal pastries I knew I'd somehow end up paying for through our joint account. "Still playing with your little drawings?" she asked, eyeing my iPad. "Just keeping busy," I smiled, closing my Procreate app, where I'd been working on a Max Fluffy the Corgi's portrait. My PayPal balance quietly ticked up another 4 figures in the background. "Mother brought those croissants you like," Mark said, kissing Solstice's cheek. "Though maybe we should watch the grocery expenses this month." Solstice patted his arm. "If Cassandra would learn to budget properly." I know, I interrupted, maintaining my pleasant mask. "I'm trying to be better with money." My phone buzzed again. A notification from my business account. Another 5-star review, another satisfied customer raving about their pet portrait. I had 3 more commissions to finish by Friday, and my waiting list was 2 months long. "Speaking of money," Solstice continued, arranging pastries on a plate, "have you thought about what I said about getting a part-time job at the church? Something simple, suitable for a woman of your capabilities?" I caught my reflection in the window, the perfect picture of domestic submission. If they could see my actual bank statements, they'd choke on those overpriced croissants. "I don't think that's necessary," Mark cut in. "As long as she keeps the house in order and stops with all that confusing online shopping." I nodded, remembering the conversation with my accountant last week. "Whatever you think is best, dear." Later that night, after they'd both left and I could breathe again, I opened my laptop to check my business analytics. My latest collection had gone viral on Instagram, and commission requests were flooding in. I clicked accept on Fluffy the Corgi's project and started sketching. My phone lit up with a text from Beatrice, my old co-worker. "Girl, your latest piece is everywhere. When are you going to tell them?" I typed back, "Not yet. Still playing the long game." Another notification popped up. A direct deposit from last week's commissions. More than Mark made in 2 weeks at his precious corporate job. I smiled, thinking of Solstice's condescending smile, of Mark's controlling suggestions. Let them think I'm just a housewife with a cute little hobby. Let them believe I'm struggling with basic budgeting while they enjoy restaurants and vacations secretly funded by my silly drawings. Let them underestimate me. I turned back to a Fluffy the Corgi's portrait, adding details to the crown I'd placed on their head. Every stroke was another dollar they didn't know about, another piece of evidence in my growing portfolio of silent success. The best revenge, after all, isn't served cold. It's served with a smile and a fresh cup of coffee while they never see it coming. "We need to talk about your spending habits," Mark announced over dinner, sliding my debit card statement across the table. "Mother thinks it's time we put you on a proper allowance." I paused mid-bite, studying his face in the dim dining room light. 3 years of marriage had taught me to recognize the signs. the slight lift of his chin, the way his fingers drummed against the table. He'd been planning this conversation. An allowance? I kept my voice carefully neutral, even as my stomach tightened. It's for your own good, dear. He reached for his wine glass. You seem confused about managing money. Mother suggested we simplify things. Of course she did. I glanced at my phone, where a notification about another successful payment transfer had just come through. The irony would have been funny if it wasn't so infuriating. I understand, I said, playing my part. Whatever you think is best. That's my girl. He smiled, patronizing. We'll start with cash only. No more of those confusing online transfers. I've already deleted some of those bank notifications from your phone. They were just cluttering things up. My fork clattered against the plate. He'd been going through my phone? I forced myself to take a slow sip of water. Something wrong? He asked, eyes narrowing. No, just surprised you'd go to so much trouble for me. The doorbell saved me from further discussion. I opened it to find my sister Wendy standing there, looking uncertain. Cassie? She shifted nervously. Can we talk? Mark appeared behind me. Wendy, what an unexpected surprise. I won't stay long, she said quickly. I needed to tell Cassie something important. We're having dinner, Mark stated flatly. It's fine, I interrupted. We can talk on the porch. Outside, Wendy grabbed my hands. I'm so sorry, Cassie. I should have told you years ago. Solstice, she's been lying about you to the whole family. What do you mean? She told everyone you've been saying horrible things about us, that you thought you were too good for the family now. That's why nobody reached out when you quit your job. She made it sound like you wanted space. My phone buzzed. Another commission notification. I squeezed it tight, anchoring myself. I should have known better, Wendy continued. The Cassie I know would never... Everything all right out here? Mark's voice cut through the night air. Just fine, dear. Wendy was leaving. After she left, I retreated to my home office, supposedly to organise receipts, but really to call Beatrice. He did what? Beatrice's voice crackled through the speaker. Checking your phone? Cassandra, that's not okay. I know. I pulled up my banking app, starting the process of creating separate login credentials. But I'm handling it. By letting him put you on an allowance. Girl, you make more in a month than... Exactly. I smiled, despite everything. And soon they'll know just how much more. What are you planning? You'll see. Just help me set up that separate business account we talked about, under my name only. Later that night, I lay awake listening to Mark's steady breathing beside me. My phone lit up with a text from an unknown number. Hey, it's Julio from next door. Saw your sister visit. Everything okay? Let me know if you need anything. Sometimes these old houses have thin walls, and I hear more than people think. I stared at the message for a long moment before saving his number. It was good to know I wasn't as alone as they wanted me to be. The next morning, Solstice arrived with financial planning brochures and a condescending smile. We've arranged a meeting with a proper advisor, she announced. Someone who can help explain things in simple terms. That's thoughtful of you, I replied, serving her coffee in the expensive cups she'd bought with my hidden income. Well, someone has to look after your interests. She patted my hand. Mark says you've agreed to the allowance plan. Such a good decision. I nodded, thinking of the separate account I'd set up at 3 a.m, of the growing portfolio they knew nothing about, of the trail of evidence I was carefully constructing. Yes, I said, watching her sip from the cup my art had paid for. I'm learning so much about financial responsibility. My phone buzzed with another deleted bank notification. Let them think they're in control. Let them believe I'm finally learning my place. The meeting with their financial advisor would change everything, but they didn't know that yet. I smiled and poured more coffee, already planning my next move. Sometimes the best revenge is letting people think they've won, right until the moment they realize they've lost everything. Just sit quietly and learn, Solstice instructed as we walked into the financial advisor's office. Remington comes highly recommended. He'll help sort out this mess. I clutched my folder of financial documents. Every account, every transaction, every commission payment carefully documented but not highlighted. Nothing hidden, nothing emphasized. Let them find it themselves. Mrs. Dixon. A tall man in a crisp suit extended his hand. "I'm Remington. Please come in." "Just Cassandra," I corrected quietly, noting how Mark's jaw tightened at my small rebellion. "Cassandra needs help understanding basic financial management," Solstice announced, settling into a leather chair like she was holding court. "She's been quite confused about money since leaving her career." Remington's eyes flickered to me, then back to his computer. "I see. Well, let's start by reviewing your current financial situation." I handed over my folder while checking my phone. A message from Ashton, Mark's colleague, popped up. "Great seeing you both at the office party. Dinner soon?" Something about her tone made me pause. I'd noticed how she touched Mark's arm at the party, how her laugh carried across the room at all his jokes. Now, glancing at Mark's phone on his desk, I saw her message preview disappear almost instantly. Deleted. "These are very organised records," Remington commented, scanning my documents. "Who prepared these?" "I did," I said, just as Solstice answered. "Mark handles all the important paperwork." The silence that followed was delicious. "Actually," I continued, "I've always managed our household documentation, old habits from my design firm days." Mark's phone buzzed again. Another deleted message. "Speaking of documentation," I added casually, "I took the liberty of installing that family tracking app you mentioned, Mark. You know, for safety. It's synced to both our phones now." His hand twitched toward his pocket. "You did what?" "Just trying to be more responsible, dear." Remington cleared his throat. "Well, these records show a very interesting pattern of—" "Perhaps we should focus on the retirement planning," Solstice interrupted. "Mark needs to ensure his future is secure." I pulled out my iPad, ostensibly to take notes, but really to check my tracking app. Mark's phone had been at Ashton's address 3 times last week, all during late meetings. "Of course," Remington nodded. "But first, I noticed there are some substantial regular deposits coming into the joint account. Would you like to explain those?" "Those would be from my business," I said quietly, watching Mark's face. "Your hobby?" Solstice's voice dripped with disdain. "My legitimate, registered business," I corrected. "I have all the documentation here, including tax records." Mark's phone buzzed again. This time I caught a glimpse of the message preview before it vanished. "Miss you already. Last night was—" "I think we should focus on Mark's contributions," Solstice said sharply. "Cassandra's little drawings hardly count as—" "Actually," Remington interrupted, "these deposits are quite significant. Have you considered setting up a separate business account to better track your income?" "We prefer to keep things simple," Mark cut in. "Cassandra gets confused with too many accounts." I smiled, thinking of the new account I'd already opened. "You're right, dear. Simple is better. That's why I've started keeping such detailed records of everything. Every deposit, every deletion, every location." His phone stopped buzzing after that. The meeting continued, with Remington growing increasingly impressed by my documentation and increasingly confused by Mark and Solstice's dismissals. I sat quietly, playing my part while my tracking app collected data. That evening, I went to freshen up in our master bathroom. Opening the drawer for my lipstick, I found something that didn't belong, a tube of Ruby Passion, Ashton's signature shade. "Looking for something?" Mark appeared in the doorway. "Just my lipstick." I held up Ashton's tube, though I don't remember buying this colour. "Must be from that makeup party you went to." "Must be." I placed it carefully back in the drawer, taking a photo when his back was turned. "How are those late meetings going, by the way?" He paused. "Fine. Why?" "Just curious. Ashton mentioned dinner earlier. Should we invite her over sometime?" "I don't think that's necessary." He turned away too quickly. "Mother wants us to focus on our financial planning right now." "Of course." I smiled at his reflection in the mirror. "We wouldn't want any distractions." Later, alone in my office, I added the lipstick photo to my growing folder of evidence. Next to it, I placed screenshots of deleted messages, location data, and bank statements. The picture was becoming clearer every day. Let them think I'm just sitting quietly and learning. The truth would come out soon enough, and when it did, they'd realize who had been teaching whom all along. Now, This is quite remarkable, Remington said, turning his monitor so everyone could see. There's been a consistent stream of income here, 6 figures over the past year, that doesn't match Mr. Dixon's salary deposits. The conference room fell silent. I took a slow sip of water, watching Mark and Solstice exchange glances. There must be some mistake, Solstice said, leaning forward. Mark's bonuses, perhaps? No. Remington shook his head, scrolling through the records. These are regular deposits from multiple sources. PayPal, Stripe, direct transfers. Someone's running quite a successful business. Mark's face reddened. Cassandra, what have you done? I set my water glass down carefully. Nothing illegal, if that's what you're suggesting. Just running my business. Your little drawings? Solstice scoffed. Don't be ridiculous. Remington clicked through several screens. According to these records, Cassandra's digital art business generated over $180,000 last year alone. All properly reported on your joint taxes, I see. The silence that followed was exquisite. That's impossible, Mark sputtered. She just draws pets on her iPad. I pulled out my phone, opened my business Instagram. Would you like to see my client list? The celebrity commissions? The waiting list? This whole time, Solstice's voice shook. While we've been trying to teach you about money, I've been paying for your weekly brunches. I finished for her. Those designer handbags you love? Yes. Mark grabbed my phone. Why didn't you tell me? You deleted my bank notifications, I said calmly, taking my phone back. Said they were confusing. Remember? Remington cleared his throat. Perhaps we should discuss investment strategies for this income stream. With proper management. She's been lying to us? Solstice stood up, her chair scraping against the floor. Making a fool of my son. No, I corrected, standing as well. I've been supporting your son, while you both treated me like a child who needed an allowance. This money belongs to the family, Mark declared. As the husband. Actually, Remington interrupted. Since Cassandra's business is registered solely in her name and predates your joint account arrangements, she has significant legal protection here. I gathered my papers calmly, enjoying the way Mark's face shifted from anger to fear. Thank you, Remington. I believe we have everything we need. We're not finished here. Mark grabbed my arm as I turned to leave. Actually, we are? I pulled free. Oh, and Mark? Ashton called while we were in here. Something about meeting her later? I took the liberty of telling her you'd be busy. Indefinitely. The colour drained from his face. What about Ashton? Solstice demanded. I walked out, head high, letting them deal with that particular revelation themselves. In the hallway, my phone buzzed with a message from Beatrice. Well, how did it go? Exactly as planned, I typed back. You should have seen their faces. Another message popped up, this one from Julio. Heard the shouting from next door. You okay? Never better, I replied. I drove home alone, ignoring the barrage of calls and texts from Mark and Solstice. Inside, I went straight to our bedroom, opened my makeup drawer, and found exactly what I expected. Ashton's lipstick was gone. My phone rang again, Wendy this time. Beatrice told me what happened, she said when I answered. Are you all right? I'm perfect. I opened my laptop, checking my business accounts. 3 new commission requests had come in during the meeting. Just watching everything fall into place. What will you do now? I heard cars pulling into the driveway. Mark and Solstice, no doubt arriving to continue the confrontation. Now, I smiled, opening my business account dashboard. Now, I stopped pretending to be the confused little housewife who needs their guidance. The front door slammed open. I could hear them calling my name, their voices tight with anger and panic. I have to go, I told Wendy. Time to face the music. Give them hell, she said. I ended the call and stood up, smoothing my dress. Through the bedroom window, I caught a glimpse of Julio in his garden, positioned perfectly to witness whatever drama was about to unfold. Cassandra! Mark's voice boomed from downstairs. Get down here right now! I took a deep breath, grabbed the folder containing all my evidence, the business records, the tracking data, the photos of Ashton's lipstick, everything, and headed for the stairs. Time to show them exactly who they'd been underestimating all these years. And this time, I wouldn't be the one confused about money. It was just a few business dinners, Mark insisted, pacing our living room. Ashton is a valuable connection for the firm. Is that what you call meeting her at 11 p.m. on Tuesday? I pulled up the tracking data on my iPad. At her apartment. Solstice sat rigid on our sofa, her face a mask of barely contained rage. Mark wouldn't... The lipstick in our bathroom, I continued. The deleted messages, would you like to see those too? You've been spying on me. Mark's voice rose. No, dear. I've been protecting our financial interests. Isn't that what you always say? My phone buzzed. Another commission notification. I didn't bother hiding it this time. This isn't about me, Mark deflected. You've been hiding money, running some sort of secret business. Secret? I laughed. I have 300,000 followers on Instagram. My work has been featured in magazines. The only secret was how deliberately blind you both chose to be. Solstice stood suddenly. We should call our lawyer. About what? I opened my laptop, turning it to face them. My legitimate, registered business, or Mark's attempts to take out loans against it without my knowledge? Mark froze. What are you talking about? I clicked through several emails. The loan application you submitted last month using my business information? The bank flagged it as potential fraud. Would you like to explain that? I was trying to protect us, he stammered. Your spending was out of control. My spending? I pulled up our joint account. Like the $500 dinner with Ashton last week? The hotel charges? Solstice made a choking sound. A knock at the door interrupted us. Wendy stepped in, carrying a briefcase. Sorry I'm late. Traffic was terrible. What is she doing here? Solstice demanded. Helping me structure my business properly, I said. She's a corporate lawyer now. Did you know that? Oh, wait. You were too busy telling everyone I'd abandoned the family. Wendy set her briefcase on the table. We should discuss the LLC formation and the separation of assets. Separation of assets? Mark's face paled. Cassandra, you're being ridiculous. Let's just calm down and... I am calm, I said, opening my art program. In fact, I'm working on a new series. Would you like to see? I turned my iPad to show them the piece I'd been developing, a portrait series titled Behind the Masks. The first image showed a woman in shadows, counting money, while a man slept beside her. The second showed a mother and son, their faces distorted with greed. You can't do this, Solstice hissed. I already am. The series goes live next week. My phone buzzed again, a message from Beatrice. Gallery owner loved the concept, offering prime space for the show. This isn't you. Mark tried a different approach, his voice softening. You're just confused, overwhelmed. Actually, Wendy interrupted, she's never been clearer. Shall we discuss the terms? I stood up, gathering my devices. I'll be in my office. Wendy can explain everything. Oh, and Mark, Ashton just posted a very interesting Instagram story. You might want to check it. What Instagram story? Solstice demanded, pulling out her phone. I left them scrambling, climbing the stairs to my workspace. Through the window, I saw Julio giving me a thumbs up from his garden. I waved back, then sat down at my desk. Opening my email, I found a message from the bank. Another attempted loan application in my business name. This time, I forwarded it directly to Wendy. My phone lit up with a text from Ashton. Mark says you're causing problems. Maybe we should talk? Sure, I typed back. Let's discuss the hotel receipts. She didn't respond. I turned back to my artwork, adding details to the portrait series that would soon expose everything. Not through screaming or dramatic confrontations, but through art that would make people look twice, make them question what they thought they knew. Downstairs, I could hear Solstice's voice rising, probably discovering Ashton's social media posts. Mark's attempts at explanation grew weaker. Another message popped up, this time from Remington. Interesting development at the bank today. Someone tried to access your business accounts. Need to discuss security measures. I smiled, adding it to my growing file of evidence. Let them scramble. Let them try to explain. Every move they made just gave me more material. My phone buzzed one final time, a notification that would change everything. Loan application flagged for potential fraud, legal action pending. I opened my art program and started a new piece, titled What They Deserve. Sometimes the best revenge isn't just about exposing the truth. It's about letting them destroy themselves trying to hide it. Downstairs, the arguing continued. But up here, in my office, surrounded by the empire they never noticed me building, I had never felt more in control. "Your new collection has gone viral," Beatrice said, scrolling through her phone at our favourite cafe. "Have you seen the comments?" I sipped my latte, watching Mark and Solstice at their usual Sunday brunch spot across the street. They hadn't noticed me yet. "I've been a bit busy." Listen to this one. "The matriarch of Illusions piece speaks volumes about toxic family dynamics." They're analysing every detail. My phone buzzed. Another interview request from an art magazine. The launch of my Behind the Masks collection had exploded overnight, with social media dissecting every hidden meaning, every subtle jab. "There's my favourite artist," a loud voice interrupted. Ashton sauntered up to our table, wearing her signature Ruby Passion lipstick. "We should really talk about those portraits you've been sharing." "Should we?" I gestured to the empty chair. "Pull up a seat. Let's discuss everything." She glanced nervously at Mark's table across the street. "Maybe somewhere more private?" "But I'm enjoying the audience." I opened my gallery app. "Like this piece, a woman sneaking around in shadows. Remind you of anyone?" Beatrice coughed to hide her laugh. "You're making a mistake," Ashton hissed. "Mark's already talking to lawyers." "Perfect." I pulled an envelope from my bag. "Give this to him, would you? Since you'll probably see him before I do." She snatched the envelope and stormed off, her heels clicking against the pavement. Through the window, I watched her approach Mark's table. Solstice's face turned purple as she read the papers inside. "What did you give them?" Beatrice asked. "Everything. Bank records, loan applications, hotel receipts, location data, and my terms for a very public divorce." My phone lit up with notifications as Mark burst through the cafe door, envelope clutched in his fist. "What is this?" he demanded. "I believe the legal term is evidence," I replied calmly. "The flash drive has more, much more." "You're trying to ruin me." "No, dear. I'm just showing everyone who you really are. Like my art, it's all about revealing truth through images." Other customers were staring now, phones discreetly recording. "Perfect." "You can't prove anything," he sputtered. "The loan fraud attempts. Already reported to the bank. The affair? Well, Ashton's been quite helpful lately, especially after I showed her proof you've been seeing her colleague Jessica too." His face went white. Solstice appeared behind him. "Mark, don't engage with her. Our lawyer said—" "Your lawyer should be very interested in the recording where you discussed pushing me out of my inheritance," I interrupted. "Julio has excellent surveillance equipment, by the way. Those thin walls he mentioned, they pick up everything." "You've been planning this," Mark realised. "All along, while playing the perfect wife." "Playing?" I stood up. "I ran a successful business, managed our finances, and funded your mother's shopping addiction. The only thing I played was blind to your betrayal." My phone buzzed again. My gallery show was trending on Twitter. The timing couldn't have been better. "If you do this," Solstice threatened, "you'll destroy this family." "You did that yourselves. I'm just creating the memorial art piece." I nodded to Beatrice, who started recording on her phone. "Let them dig their grave deeper in public." "Everything I did was for us," Mark tried one last time. "The loans, the meetings with Ashton, the deleted messages, the secret accounts. Tell me, how much of my business money did you try to siphon away?" He lunged for my phone, but I stepped back. Several customers gasped. "And there it is," I said quietly. "The real you, finally on display. How fitting." Security approached from the corner. "Is there a problem here?" "No," I smiled. "Mr. Dixon was just leaving. He has some legal documents to review." Mark looked around, finally noticing the phone's recording, the witnesses watching, his carefully crafted image crumbling in real time. "This isn't over," he growled. "Actually, it is." I turned to the growing audience. "Would anyone like a preview of my upcoming gallery show? It's called What Lies Beneath? A Study in Hidden Truths and Financial Fraud." Solstice grabbed Mark's arm, dragging him toward the door. "We'll see you in court." "Looking forward to it," I called after them. "I have so much more art to share." Once they were gone, Beatrice stopped recording. That was brilliant. No, I corrected, watching the video already spreading online. That was justice. The real show hasn't even begun. My phone lit up with another notification. The bank's fraud department requesting a meeting. I smiled, gathering my things. Sometimes the best art isn't what you create, but what you reveal about others in the process. Ready for phase 2? Beatrice asked. Always. I opened my gallery app, selecting the next piece to release. Let's show them what a confused little housewife can really do. The gallery buzzed with excitement as people moved from piece to piece in my exhibition. Behind the masks had drawn quite a crowd, including several familiar faces I hadn't seen in years. The detail in this one is extraordinary, a woman whispered, studying the matriarch's puppet, a portrait of Mark dancing on strings controlled by Solstice's bejeweled hands. Those rings look exactly like the ones my mother-in-law wears. That's because they're the ones I paid for, I said, stepping forward. Would you like to hear the story behind them? Before I could continue, commotion erupted near the entrance. Mark and Solstice had arrived, their faces twisted with barely contained rage. You have no right to display these. Solstice marched toward me, her designer handbag swinging wildly. These are private family matters? Private? I gestured to the central piece, counting other people's money. Like the private loans you tried to take out in my name, or the private dinners with Ashton that I funded. The crowd shifted, phones appearing to record the drama. You're making a spectacle of yourself, Mark hissed, grabbing my arm. Security? I called out calmly. Mr. Dixon seems to have forgotten the restraining order. 2 guards appeared instantly, positioning themselves between us. Restraining order? Solstice's voice rose. Mark, what is she talking about? Oh, he didn't tell you. I pulled up the documentation on my phone. After the incident at the cafe, and the threatening messages, and the attempted break-in at my studio, would you like to see the security footage? Mark's face paled. I was just trying to retrieve my property. You mean my business files? The ones you tried to delete? I turned to the gathering crowd. That actually inspired this next piece, digital footprints. Notice how the shadows form a trail of deleted messages? Julio appeared at my side, tablet in hand. Speaking of messages, I have those recordings you asked for? The ones from the night they discussed the inheritance scheme? Solstice's composure cracked. You miserable little... Choose your next words carefully. Wendy stepped forward, her lawyer mode fully engaged. You're already facing serious legal consequences. Legal consequences? A voice called from the crowd. I'd love to hear more about that for my article. I recognized the speaker, a journalist from a major art magazine. Perfect timing. It's quite a story, I said, leading her to the next painting. See this piece? The Price of Silence. It represents every dinner I paid for while they mocked my cute little drawings. Every vacation funded by my work while they controlled my allowance. Allowance? The journalist's eyebrows shot up. Cassandra, please. Mark tried a different approach, his voice softening. We can work this out privately. As a family. Family? I laughed. Like when you and your mother isolated me from mine. Told everyone I was too ambitious, too confused about money to maintain relationships. Wendy stepped closer. Or when you told our parents she wanted nothing to do with us. I was protecting our marriage, Mark shouted. The gallery fell silent. No, I said quietly. You were protecting your control. But you forgot something crucial. I gestured to the artwork surrounding us. I've always known how to tell stories through images, and now everyone can see the truth. You'll regret this, Solstice spat, as security began escorting them out. When you have nothing left. Nothing left. I pulled up my business accounts on the gallery's display screen. I think you're confused about who has what. Would you like to see the real numbers? Their faces as they saw my actual earnings, all those years of cute little drawings, made for better art than anything I could paint. After they were gone, Julio approached with a small smile. There's something else you should know. That conversation I recorded? They mentioned plans to pressure you into signing over your inheritance rights, something about making you feel too incompetent to manage it. I turned to Wendy. Add that to the legal file? She was already typing on her phone. Already done. The judge will be very interested. The journalist cleared her throat. Would you be willing to do an exclusive interview? This story is incredible. Actually, I said, leading her to my final piece, a large canvas still covered in black cloth. I'd like to show you something first. This is the centerpiece of the collection, and it's called What They Deserve. As I pulled away the cloth, gasps echoed through the gallery. The painting showed a woman, surrounded by shattered masks and counting cards, while two figures in the background reached for wealth that turned to smoke in their hands. Sometimes, I told the captivated audience, the best revenge isn't what you take from others, it's showing them exactly what they've lost. My phone buzzed with another notification. Fraud investigation into Mark Dixon expanded. Additional suspects named. I smiled. The truth, like art, always finds its way into the light. Sign here. Wendy slid the final divorce papers across the conference table. And it's done. Mark stared at the documents, his designer suit now looking somehow shabby. No Solstice beside him today. She was too busy dealing with her own legal troubles after the fraud investigation expanded. You're really going through with this? He picked up the pen. After everything I did for you? You mean everything I did for you, I corrected, pulling up my latest bank statement. Including paying for that suit you're wearing? He signed quickly, shoulders slumping. What happens now? Now. I gathered my papers. Now you get exactly what you earned. Nothing more, nothing less. Outside the lawyer's office, Beatrice waited with champagne. Ready to celebrate? Almost. I checked my phone. Another message from the gallery. Just one more stop. We drove to my old house, the one Mark and Solstice had tried so hard to control. Julio was tending his garden as we pulled up. Perfect timing, he called out. They're inside packing. Through the window, I could see Solstice directing movers, her face pinched with fury as they carried out her precious antiques, the ones my art had paid for, now being seized as part of the fraud settlement. Mrs. Dixon, I called out cheerfully. Need any help with the heavy lifting? She whirled around. Haven't you done enough? Actually, no. I held up my phone, showing her the latest headlines. Rising art star exposes financial fraud ring through viral exhibition. You've ruined everything, she hissed. Wrong again. I simply revealed what was already there. I turned to the movers. The dining room set goes to auction too. It was purchased with fraudulent funds. That was a family heirloom. No, it wasn't. I have the receipt, paid from my business account after you insisted it was essential for proper entertaining. My phone buzzed. A message from Mark's company. Regarding your evidence of corporate fund misappropriation. Oh, look. I showed Solstice the screen. Seems Mark's late meetings with Ashton involved more than just dinner. The board is very interested in those expense reports. She slammed the door in my face. That felt good. Beatrice grinned. It gets better. I walked next door to Julio's garden. Ready to show them? He nodded, pressing a button on his security system. Suddenly, every conversation they'd had about manipulating me, every scheme they'd plotted, played through speakers around the property. The front door flew open again. Turn that off! Solstice screamed. Why? I thought you'd enjoy reliving the memories, like when you told Mark to break her spirit so I'd sign over my inheritance. The movers paused, listening. Or maybe, I continued, the part where you planned to declare me mentally unfit to manage my own finances. We were trying to help you, she insisted. Help yourselves, you mean? I pulled out one final document. By the way, the house isn't yours to pack up anymore. The deed's in my name now, part of the fraud settlement. Her face crumpled. Where are we supposed to go? That sounds like a budgeting issue, I smiled. Maybe you need an allowance to help manage your money better? Beatrice snorted into her champagne. My phone lit up again, the gallery owner this time. Your new series just sold out, every piece. They're calling it a masterpiece of social commentary. Perfect timing, I said, turning back to Solstice. I'll need the house empty by tonight. I'm turning it into my new studio. You can't... Actually, I can. And I am. I gestured to the movers. Everything goes to auction except my art supplies. Those stay. As they resumed packing, Wendy pulled up with the final surprise, a truck containing all my old design firm equipment, ready to transform the space. "You planned this all along?" Solstice realized. "No," I corrected. "You planned this. Every manipulation, every insult, every attempt to control me. You built this gallery of consequences all by yourself. I just framed it properly." She stormed back inside, barking orders at the movers. "Ready for that champagne now?" Beatrice asked. I looked around, at Julio's knowing smile, at Wendy's proud grin, at the house that would become my studio, at the life I'd reclaimed piece by piece. "Actually," I said, pulling out my iPad, "I have one last portrait to paint first." "What's this one called?" Wendy peered over my shoulder. I started sketching, a woman standing tall among ruins, brushes and bank statements in hand, while shadows fled into darkness. "I'm calling it What I Would Have Said," I replied. But I think showing them worked better than telling them ever could. My phone buzzed one final time, a message from the art magazine. "Your story has gone viral. Women everywhere are calling it inspiring." I smiled, adding details to my sketch. Sometimes the best revenge isn't just exposing the truth, it's creating something beautiful from the wreckage of lies. "Now," I said, raising my champagne glass, "we can celebrate.